I want to welcome in our all-star political panel this morning on this Thursday. We start with former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCoy, with us. Former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates is here. Project 21 National Advisory Board member Chris Arps making his first, Chris Chambers, I don't know what that is. It's Christopher Arps. He's with us this morning. I'm sure he's a great guy, too. You know who another great guy is? Amir Benno, our constitutional law attorney, with us this morning. A whole lot to talk about. I want to talk about sort of these executive orders that President Biden has been signing. It started on day one. He signed 17, and the number is up. It's close to 30 now that he's all of a sudden put his signature on. It seems like it's the Obama third term, and they are all sort of influencing him to do this, and he signed now more than any president in the first 8 days in office. Betsy, let's get your reaction.
I wouldn't say it's Obama's third term. It's far more radical than an Obama third term would be. What's really happening here is that Joe Biden is getting up every morning, having his breakfast, and then signing whatever the far left has prepared for him. And they've been working to reverse and more than reverse Trump's initiatives to really move the nation in a very radical direction on climate change, on immigration. I pointed out in a previous segment how dangerous some of these immigration provisions will be as we're battling the coronavirus, because of all the nations in the world, 193, Mexico is the most affected by coronavirus. So all the migrants coming from countries south of Mexico will be picking that disease up along the way and delivering it to the United States. There's a lot to be concerned about here. Yeah,
it's like a walking super spreader event. It just seems like what's happening now is they're trying to do things that they didn't get done when Obama was in office, ending the pipeline, opening up the borders, as you just said, Betsy, ruining girls' sports. They don't help the country. They certainly don't help our taxpayers, which we all are. Chris, your thoughts?
You know, after all of these executive orders, we should be thinking about renaming President Biden King Joseph I, because he's basically just legislating or governing by fiat. And it makes me wonder, all of the people that voted for him, did they know that they were going to be voting for a guy that's going to be eliminating the Keystone Pipeline and eliminating jobs and doing all of these radical social experiments? I just wonder. I don't think so.
Amir, the CDC says open up. Oh, Amir, I'm coming right to you. The CDC says, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say is he took an oath, Biden did, to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. And what he is doing here is doing an end run around Congress. I mean, if we look at some of these executive orders, halting the construction on the wall, Congress had appropriated money to build the wall through 2021. With the stroke of a pen, he says, I don't care what Congress did. I'm going to do what I wanted to do, what I want to do. And this is exactly the argument that the Democrats lodged against President Trump. Remember with the Ukraine, when he said, I'm not going to give you the money that Congress appropriated? He's frozen deportations for 100 days, even though federal law requires that we take action within 90 days. So he's overridden Congress on that. He's canceled the Keystone Pipeline, like was just mentioned. That is something that is within the realm of Congress to regulate foreign trade. Yeah. And he's engaging in a treaty without the ratification of the Senate when it comes to the Paris Accord. He is absolutely short-circuiting the Constitution.
All right, quick timeout, guys. Here's some good news for our viewers and anybody that's watching right now that might be down on where things are when it comes to conservatives and Republicans in this country right now. And I just thought this was interesting because we're so depressed about everything. And you know, President Trump, they say February 9th, 1 p.m., this drive-by impeachment is going to start. Yesterday, members of the Oath Keepers militia were indicted on charges, several of them, that they conspired to storm the Capitol using social media platforms, including Facebook, prior to that event. Which would, I mean, I think if you were a defense attorney, Rick, I'll turn it over to you, but if you were a defense attorney, wouldn't you be chomping at the bit to defend President Trump if this were a criminal trial?
No question. And I think, you know, what a lot of the legislators, particularly, you know, members in Congress, Republicans and Democrats alike, they all need to look in the mirror. It's always easier to point the finger at somebody, and clearly everybody's been pointing it at Donald Trump. But at the end of the day, the reason that you had this whole, you know, horrific issue take place with the storming of the Capitol is because the politicians were not listening to the people. That's really what this is about. So people have been angry enough that the politicians are doing nothing. They're not listening to the concerns. And over the course of the last, you know, several years, a lot of these concerns have, you know, bubbled up to this point. So I think, to blame the president is absolutely ridiculous. And members of Congress need to look in the mirror and really point the finger at themselves, because a lot of the blame is on them.
Millions of Americans, Betsy, rely on fossil fuel jobs in this country. Joe Biden is continuing to sign more climate orders that will eliminate jobs. Take a listen to what former Secretary of State, current climate czar John Kerry, had to say about that issue.
Paris alone is not enough. Not when almost 90% of all of the planet's emissions, global emissions, come from outside of U.S. borders. We could go to zero tomorrow, and the problem isn't solved.
So if you're a coal miner, why don't we teach you to become a computer programmer or a ballerina instructor or something else? It's ridiculous.
It is. And every time I hear Joe Biden or John Kerry or one of the other Washington elites say it, I think to myself, they're unfamiliar with the fact that a coal miner or a welder on the pipeline brings home a paycheck and pays for everything his family needs that week. So when you say, well, we can retrain you, there are jobs in the future, what are they supposed to do in the meantime? Only somebody coming from a very wealthy background like John Kerry, who flies in and out of D.C. on his private plane, would be so unaware of that he would make such statements.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, one of the few concrete promises that Joe Biden made during the campaign was that he was not going to raise taxes on Americans making under $400,000.
Right.
Well, with this new executive orders that he's signing on fracking and climate change and all that, gas prices are going to go up, and that's going to be a tax increase on every single American going forward.
I have a video that I just have to play this. I know we played it earlier, but if somebody's just joining us, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, say that schools in America should be open as long as that certain precautions are taken. Congress allotted $65 billion to these schools over the last 10 months to make sure they could get air purifiers and hand sanitizer. The Chicago School Board says they are not ready to have their teachers come back, and they put a video together explaining why. Take a look.
Safe. It's our livelihood.
Rick, I know you've seen this by now. I know you've got that bottle of Maker's Mark behind you. That would be a good time.
I might need it. As like I said, I might need it after watching the video.
Is this just ridiculous? I mean, they've been off for going on 11 months.
Well, it amazes me that those teachers are able to, take the time and effort and energy to put that video together. But yet, they can't, sit down and then write, a teaching plan or think about ways that they can reach some of their students. There are lots of ways that, public school teachers in America can actually continue to work without necessarily having to be at school. And while we can argue back and forth about going to school in person, and obviously the teachers' unions are going to protest that, I think there could be a lot better use of time than putting a dancing video. But as you said, it's going to generate a lot of ratings, so that might be good.
Betsy, I could tell you've got something you want to say.
Well, looking ahead, the American people, including parents, of course, have to begin electing officials who are not panderers to the teachers' union. We're not going to have high-quality education, accountability, standardized tests, fairness, or even safety in the classroom in a city like New York until we elect officials who are not captives of the teachers' union.
Another bad look, school board member Sarah Chambers, she was spotted, and I don't know why you would do this. You would think you would just put your phone away. She flew to a tropical destination. It looks like she's sipping on a Mai Tai or something, and she took pictures of herself poolside, and she's been very vocal about not putting teachers back in schools, and the pictures are just, they are a sight to see.
There may be a silver lining to this. It may spark a more greater interest in the school choice movement. And parents may want to take their children out of these public schools and put them in private schools or charter schools because of the obstinance of these teachers.
Rick, I want to give you the final thought on this, and I've been thinking about this too. But Democrats right now, Senators Tim Kaine and I believe Susan Collins are looking to censure. Bring articles to censure President Trump. Might be a better option. Who knows? He's a former president now. The point of impeaching is to remove somebody from office. He's not in office, but this might generate a ton of sympathy for the president coming into the midterm elections as well.
Yeah, and it will. I mean, if we go back and look at what Nancy Pelosi did the last time around, I mean, the idea of impeaching, President Trump backfired on her, and I think it's going to happen again. It's ironic that, Tim Kaine and Susan Collins are looking at the idea of censure. This was certainly mentioned earlier on the House side, but nobody wanted to touch it. Nancy Pelosi wanted to drive forward. She weaponized, the impeachment clause in the Constitution. And frankly, I think she's done a very, very big disservice to how we look at impeachment moving forward. I mean, people are going to get impeached over jaywalking at the rate that Nancy Pelosi is enacting it. Right. So this idea of censure, and I think the idea of censure is not going to work. I mean, I don't think the Senate's going to end up doing that at all.
Amir, final thought?
Jump in quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, Tim Kaine already, he floated that, and Chuck Schumer said, no, we're going forward with this trial. It doesn't matter that we don't have the votes. So I think they're just dead set against doing anything but trial because they have a seething hatred of Donald Trump. And there's an old expression, I think it's a Chinese expression, which is apt because the Democrats love the Chinese, which is that hatred corrodes the container in which it is kept. And these Democrats are doing themselves a huge disservice. It's self-destructive, and they're going to find that out in the midterms.
America United. Guys, I really enjoyed the conversation this morning. Great stuff from the panel. Christopher Arps joining us for the first time, knocking it out of the park on day one.
Thank you.
We hope you come back, sir. Amir Benno, always excellent stuff. Betsy McCoy, such a pleasure having you on. Rick Gates, we hope you will come back and see us. We appreciate your time. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rob.